Okay folks, this is it. We finally made it to the final stretch in the entire game. Hey, what's up ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Silver the Hedgehog here, and once again, I am back for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos once again. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, for the Nintendo Entertainment System / Famicom Disk System. So, last time, we essentially did manage to win back onto the 6th temple, mainly because we did somehow manage to able to obtain the final item in the game, which appears to be some sort of like a cross item, which you probably already know that ever since on yesterday. So because of that, and also we did somehow finally reach its maximum potential for able to actually get ourselves with the forms of the maximum level ups. So, for instance, we are now maxed out for the sake of the forms of the attack power, and you probably named the rest of it though. And finally, we did somehow finally learn the final spell in the game. So, and yeah, if you couldn't tell already from the editing stuff like this, is that today for this video, is that we'll be able to actually go ahead and end off the game. Now, before we get onto this though, I need to quickly go ahead and find specific, Link dolls that is usually well hidden for certain spots. Now, in that particular portion right there, I'm actually going to be able to do this post-commentary, because, relatively speaking, it's about the fact that I just want to get this game finished, done and over with. Just in case, no matter what though, it's important to know, in order to able to make our way to the final temple in the game, which is essentially the Great Palace, basically I highly recommend you able to go after quite a few Link dolls, which actually gives you an extra life. However though, I'll try my best able to actually grind for about, let's say, 4 lives, and because of that though, if you couldn't tell already, we'll be able to actually find specific spots in order to able to actually find one of those Link dolls. And once you get able to actually get enough Link dolls, is essentially a 1-ups in some cases though, you would able to actually do the final stretch in the game just fine. But here's the catch to this though, is that getting to the actual final temple in the game is an enormous chore. Like, for instance, no matter what though, there's gonna be a lot of battle sequence, and because of that though, I think at this point in time, I will not gonna be able to actually grinding experience points for now, because if you couldn't tell already, it's about the fact that the next level cap we need to reach up to is 9,000, and believe me, we are probably not going to make it at that point, especially because, well, at this point in time, I think we should be perfectly fine for able to actually make our way to level 8, not just by the forms of in life, but also for magic and attack. So, I think that should be all said and done when it comes to the forms of preparing for the final stretch in the game. So because of that, and yeah, if you couldn't tell already, this is my final jump cut for this point, especially because, well, that's essentially I'm going to show you guys where certain Link dolls are. And because of that though, technically we've already did manage to obtain one, thanks to the forms of one of those temples that we've already went into. Again, at least if you already know about this, ever since during the forms of on last Sunday, at least as far as I'm concerned with this particular stuff for that matter. So yeah, I kind of believe about the fact that we almost nearly at the end of the game, folks. I mean, it's been quite an interesting experience, all things considered, but then again though, I should probably save my particular topic about the forms of my final thoughts of this game until when it gets to a point until at the very end. But for now, we'll scout able to ignore certain enemies for now. Although, potentially speaking though, I highly recommend you able to actually grind as many of those magic jars as much as you possibly can. And yeah, let's go to the stealth portion. And because of that, we are now approaching onto, well, make our way to the Great Palace, which, believe me what I'm saying, this is about the fact that, well, getting to the Great Palace is an enormous chore. Like, as I mentioned this earlier, is about the fact that you have to go through so many battle sequences just to reach this darn place. And if you do manage to able to have enough magic supply, well, don't be surprised if you manage to try to make it to this point in a critical condition, because if you couldn't tell already, that just like the forms of how it does on mostly in the entire game, well, again, if you get a game over before reaching that area, you have to travel to all this particular tedious exploration again. However, if you do manage to able to make your way to the Great Palace, which as a result, I think I should probably save that particular topic once we make our way to the Great Palace, and this is going to be filled to the brim with the forms of a lot of tricky stuff here and there, especially considering for the fact that we probably start able to introduce to ourselves the most annoying enemy in the game, which appears to be buddy forms those blue variants for certain eyeball enemies, which not only does it hit you like nothing else, but also it takes away your experience points, much like some enemy encounters. Not only that though, it gives you a knockback if you keep on getting hit by these guys, which I seriously can't stand these guys. Like, they kind of reminds me of the forms of, well, let's just say those annoying blob enemies from the likes of Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest. Although, the noticeable differences being is that you can able to actually jump in midair without needing to worry about the forms of the actual bill mod strutting or something like that. So, anyways though, so a few things I want to explain for this point today is that, potentially speaking though, is that today's date of course there is the 17th of December today, in some cases in 2023 today. I was originally trying to able to explain some parts of the actual details. I would like to able to mention about that stuff though, but I suppose we'll probably should able to let some toys else mention more details onto that other topic until specifically once we get to the forms of getting closer to towards the end of, you know, 2023 of course. So, and speaking of 2023 though, is I think, as far as I can usually recall, we've only just got about 15 more days to go until we're approaching onto 2024. And on top of that, I believe we've only just got about 8 more days to go. I think it says 8 days. Yeah, 8 days left until Christmas Day for 2023 is gonna take place. So, yeah, that should be a lot of fun, especially considering for the fact that, as usual, spending some time with your family, and even especially noticeable to have some delicious food, and we'll probably save that particular topic once we get towards Christmas or something. So, but we still have no idea what our plan is this time around though, for the sake of the forms of this year, because I know for the fact that we've already done the ranking videos twice, for the sake of the forms of one of them is in 2021 and another one in 2022, just because you already know that White Teddy already passed away for, you know, multiple reasons. So anyway, so we're almost there, so we just need to go through the last few bits of areas throughout, and this is where we come across into some very difficult enemy encounters as far as I can tell for this point, because now we actually bump into the blue variants of those annoying lizard-like enemies or something like that, and because of that, they now start throwing projectiles, much like the forms of how it does it for blue Iron Knuckle, and yeah, it's gonna be a bit of a pain to able to actually deal with these guys. Well, it might not be so bad as long as you were able to actually time your, well-timing, jump stab, and because of that, and there's going to be a lot of annoying moments where, in this particular part right there, I was assuming about the fact that I was going to make my leaps of faith without even wasting my magic meter. But, if you couldn't tell, I did somehow manage to activate the jump magic spell, because obviously I need to make my big jump successfully, and because of that, I did somehow manage to able to jump over for that particular lava pit, no problem. So because of that, I could have tried able to actually do without it, but it's just that no matter what, how many times I was able to make that specific jump, but most of the time, I did not make it at all. So because of that, yeah, that's why I can really think about it. So because of that, yeah, it looks like we've now down to 6 lives left, which, trust me, what I'm saying is that before you get started with the forms of the final temple in the game, I seriously still recommend you go after those extra lives, because if you don't do this at all, you're about to get wrecked, and on top of that, again, if you get a game over before reaching that area, you have to travel for all this entire exploration all over again. So here we are, folks, onto the final temple in the game, which appears to be the Great Palace, or potentially speaking, the Great Temple or something like that. And much like the forms of how it does it on the forms of Ganon's dungeon from the first Legend of Zelda game, this place is gargantuan. Like, filled to the brim with the forms of so many rooms and so many dead ends and so many ways to die. So because of that though, I seriously would able to recommend looking up on the map, so just in case you don't able to actually accidentally bump into the forms of those not only dead ends, but also certain enemy placements can get downright despicable most of the time. Although one thing is something's worth noting for is that I do recognize this music in the background, which, yeah, if you couldn't tell already, that was before when Super Smash Bros. Brawl was a thing, and obviously one of the music choices was actually the forms of the Great Powers. So, yeah, that's something it's worth a while to able to actually know something like this, but in order to able to do that, you have to complete one of those event match on hard difficulty. I think you can able to only play as Ganondorf on the forms of one of those event matches, like let's just say event match number 33, at least as far as I recall. Mind you, it's been a very long while since I actually have last played Super Smash Bros. Brawl, especially noticeable because I'm almost 100% everything in the game, and because of that, I finally managed able to get myself not one, but two specific challenges completed, based off from Brawl mode, and my god, that was actually a heck of a lot of experience. Especially, the only easy strategy I can think of is to use Kirby, and then able to actually just go off the stage a bit. I mean, sure, the actual RMG decides to come in for a bit, especially noticeable with the tougher and aggressive variants for the likes of the forms of the multi-man Brawl, but either way though, that's the way how I roll. And on top of that, I've almost basically done every single challenges for the sake of the forms of, well, the multi-man Brawl, because all I need to do left now is, of course, complete 100-man Brawl with all the characters, and suffice to say, that particular challenge is kind of tedious, so I'm just gonna have to able to use my last gold hammer on that. So just in case I just want to get that particular completion, you know, just trying to able to complete that challenge. So, anyway, so yeah, there's gonna be a lot of bizarre enemies, and believe it or not, certain enemies are just ridiculous. Like, you got the this very similar enemies as the forms of how it does it from any other temples as we've been into, except now it's all in a different color. And on top of that, we actually stumbled across into certain bird type enemies, as far as you can definitely tell. Like these godforsaken red variant of the forms of those bird knights that not only they just trying to able to attack you, but they just keep jumping everywhere, and they just move about. Like, please stay still, stop following me, go ahead and go away and stop, please. Okay, that was a close one. However, luckily though, if you do manage to able to get a game over onto this particular temple, thank God, you don't have to worry about just trying to make your way back to the beginning of the game. So, imagine if I get a game over on this particular temple, I was like, oh, you gotta be kidding me, after like, and then, immediately as soon as you get to continue, basically it actually transports you back to the beginning portion of the Great Powers. So, yeah, and I was like, you telling me, Gabe, if I get the game over at the Great Powers, I'm actually at the beginning of the Great Palace and not Hyrule Temple? Why can never a palace be like that? Why start doing that now? That's annoyingly inconsistent. But I'm the very least grateful about it. And I believe there was nothing important in here, but I get the strong feeling it might actually contain an enemy in here, so we'll just gonna skip that for now. So because of that, yeah, this place is gonna be filled with a lot of rooms that we need to explore. So yeah, it's probably best for me to able to activate the shield spell, so just in case it actually reduces any damage or just gets a higher defense or something. So, and up to this point, it's just about the fact that we need to make our way towards the very end, so, and hopefully we should be able to actually claim ourselves the forms of the most important MacGuffin. And that's what appears to be by the forms of the Triforce of Courage. So, yeah, that should be a pretty pleasant surprise after all. So, anyway, so I think that should be all set, and let's just, yeah, use the actual specific spells occasionally, so just in case I don't want to able to waste too much magic, because, well, assuming of course if you do die at one point, which, trust me what I'm saying is pretty easy to do, well, thankfully though, you can able to actually just get ourselves our fully regenerated health, as well as magic meter as well, and yeah, that's just the way I think I was going to be able to try to explain any of these things, so... Oh, jeez. Oh yeah, something's worth noting for is that one of those episodes in particular for My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, Swarm of the Century, that episode has officially became 13 years old recently, so yeah, it's been 13 years since that episode first came out in 2010, which is roughly around that time when, I don't know what do I usually explain about this at this point, so, oh jeez, we need to avoid a lot of lava around here, so... well, it's pretty self-explanatory for the most part for certain rooms, but either way, let's just go ahead and continue things on here. And, oh geez, we've now stumbled across into that bigger counterpart of this little skull, like, ball disc or something like that, which, again, it actually drains a lot of your magic, so I was able to actually try to deal with it, but like I said before, I don't think there's any point we can able to actually battle against with certain enemies at this point, because, you know, we've already reached our maximum potential for its, status and all that things, or all that stuff as far as what I meant to say, so, anyways, let's go down to this little elevator, or this lift, so, nah, I don't think there's gonna be any, invisible walls to be found, so I suppose that's fine, because obviously, I think, if I recall correctly, if you go on to the right, basically, there's a ferry in here, so we should be able to actually obtain that ferry down there, just in case we can able to regain our health back, so, now I believe if you go on to the right, I believe you're able to actually get yourselves a different item, which, as it turns out, I think that's going to be another extra life that we can able to possibly try to obtain, but nothing really matters to me anyway, well, I might as well show this off anyway, so, yep, sure enough, it's another one of those Link dolls. However, there's one problem I have with the forms of those Link dolls in this game. Normally you would able to actually just to get the life back, if you do manage to able to get a game over at one point. Well, guess what? Those Link dolls never respawn if you get game over, and because of that though, yeah, this is a good thing about the fact that I'm not going after these extra lives from the get-go, because otherwise, it's probably best that you're able to actually save those until you make our way to the very end of the game, specifically the Great Palace. So, yeah, that's what I was going to be able to try to give you guys certain advice with, so, assuming, of course, if you pretty much know what to do for this point, but still. But, yeah, it's pretty strange about the fact that this game does not have any rubies as in-game currency, nor does the forms of any other weapons in general, like in most any other Zelda games, as a matter of fact, so... Anyways, I think we've almost nearly at the end now. Now, I believe in this particular spot right here, we need to find this particular invisible pit until we're able to continue our progress, like down here. So, good thing I did somehow manage to check on the map and what have you, so, yeah, because despite the fact that this game does not have a built-in map, and hey, that was not fair! That thing just appears out of thin air! I mean, oh my god, this place is just a nightmare sometimes. Well, at least I did somehow manage to able to go through a correct pathway, because I could imagine for the fact that for those who have a first time playing this game, my god, good luck with this particular palace, because like I said before, this place is gargantuan, so, and I believe we need to head over to this particular pit down there, because otherwise if you continually go to the right, I think it's going to be lead you to yet another dead end, so, and I believe that's all there is to it for the Great Palace. So, I believe in this particular place does have not one, but two boss fights that we can able to encounter. Like the first boss we're going to be taking on, it appears to be buddy forms of, well, Thunderbird. Not to be confused as the Thunderbird, the name of the show of the puppets and stuff like that. Except the fact that, well, if you couldn't tell already, I did somehow die. But, potentially speaking though, we somehow respawned from here, and you remember that particular thunder spell, as we somehow learned from the likes of the forms in the last video? And also, if you remember from The Legend of Zelda on the NES, where basically the Silver Arrows is mandatory if you want to beat the game, well, that could be also applies to the forms of the Thunder Spell in this game, because if you don't have the Thunder Spell, you cannot win. Because obviously, if you couldn't tell already, we used the Thunder Spell against with the Thunderbird, that should able to turn him into a blue variation of the Thunderbird, and it's your chance to able to stab him for about a few times right at its face, assuming of course no matter what though, what makes this boss fight a little bit harder as it seems is because not only he flies around all over the place, but also no matter what though, he keep on spewing out those fireballs, and because of that, they can really hurt you, and that's the perfect example of why that I somehow managed able to not only equip the Thunder Spell from the start, but also I somehow managed able to use the Shield Spell, so because of that, that should able to give me some good defense. So, and if you think this is over, well, we've only got one more challenge left, so because of that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll present to you the final boss in Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. So, and what particular finale boss we might come across into? Well, yourself, or Dark Link as he's called. So, yeah, no matter what though, since this game is already hard enough as it is, so you know what? I just have to stand over here, crouch, and strike his knees. Yeah, I know for the fact that it's a cheating way to beating him, but at this point, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to move on to the next game in the franchise. I mean, yeah, it is pretty difficult as it seems like, but either way though, we've already beat him. So, there we go folks, we finally completed the challenge, and we finally claimed the Triforce of Courage. My god, that was quite an experience. Which, that pretty much summed up as the forms of Zelda 2 The Adventure of Link after all. Like, holy macaroni. Is this one of the hardest games I ever played? But it did certainly live up to its standards, ladies and gentlemen. Like, bottom line is about the fact that this certainly gives you no mercy or something. Now, I wasn't able to actually expect to believe that you need to be a game in order to complete this title. Like, I can imagine for a fact that a lot of people seem to really dislike this game a lot more, just because no matter what though, yeah, that's why I could really compromise for the sake of the forms of how difficult this game can be. I mean, if you enjoy a challenge, then by all means play this game. This is certainly one of the most difficult games in the franchise. Unfortunately though, it might be too late for one of its own sake. And also, this game is often considered to be the black sheep of the series, not just because of the side-scrolling approach, but also because of how stupidly hard it is. I can definitely agree is that this game is even ball-bustingly difficult. In fact, I won't call it a bad game either. I mean, maybe for a little bit. I mean, I will say, the music is actually pretty nice to listen to at this point. And also, I feel like the overworld standpoint is actually a lot more convenient than in the last game. I mean, yeah, the controls might throw you off a bit, but I will admit though, out of all the actual Zelda games I actually did play so far for this channel, this is by far my least favorite. I mean, it does have some interesting choices though, but in the end though, I wasn't able to actually just go back into this game anytime soon, just because, jeez, this game is already hard enough as it is. So because of that, well, still no matter what though, is that Maxi is still working on going back onto the Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels on the likes of the Famicom Disk System version after all. I mean, relatively speaking though, is about the fact that, well, by all means, do not play this. I mean, if you enjoyed this particular challenge, then by all means, you might as well give it a shot. I mean, think of like the forms of the exactly same difficulty problems from the likes of certain other games, like not only Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse English version, as well as the forms of Mega Man and Bass for the Super Famicom or Game Boy Advance version more like. And it looks like I somehow stumbled across into 5 game overs so far. So because of that, yeah, I believe if you manage to lose a life, I believe that death counter does not increase unless if you do somehow manage to select continue for the sake of the forms if you get a game over or something. So, yeah, that was it folks. That was it for the entire Let's Play of Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link for the NES/Famicom Disk System. And yeah, that was quite an experience, like I said before. And hope you guys do enjoy this particular playthrough because, oh my gosh, I'm just getting so much of a, well, I can't believe by saying this is about the fact that, well, I finally managed to beat this game because I can never seem to able to beat this game on the Wii Virtual Console version because with the lack of save states, and not only that, I think it only runs at 50 Hz mode, which makes things a bit slower, but at the very least, I'm grateful on the NES Classic Mini at the very least. So, yeah, this is me, Silver the Hedgehog, from the likes of the Mexi Toys. I'm not exactly sure what's going to be up next for the Zelda retrospective of Let's Plays. I might decide able to think on that one. So, yeah, that's what I can really think about it. So I'll see you guys at some point soon. Bye.